Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens, Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. And this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 813. Holy cow. Hopefully, you guys have had a great day. I'm very much looking. That's 2 nights in a row. I haven't been quick enough on that draw. Very much looking forward to this one. It has been a very long time. And usually I would use the Instagram name, but Genevieve Newton, otherwise known as Miss Nudie Grows on Instagram. I just feel like it's more appropriate to your distinguished name there. You've come a long way since the last time we've talked. A lot of good things. How you been?
I've been good. I would like to just set for the record that I'm still genuinely Miss Nudie Grows primarily first, and Genevieve Newton, the professional, second.
So I guess, do they know of the alter ego, I guess, if you would, if at work there?
You know what? People know some things, but I am like, I don't know if people realize I'm pretty private. And so I just like the professional, I've mixed a little bit of my professional legal industry stuff with like the advocacy, community mentoring stuff that I started in. But I don't talk about it as much because I have this thing in my head where I don't know if it sounds like I'm bragging or if it's like just like talking about my experiences. And so I have this thing in my head where I feel like people don't want to listen or they're not interested. So I just keep everything to myself. It's like a mental illness, I'm sure, but I don't know.
I'm sure that's not true anyway. So the last time, I believe, usually I try to do like a little run through on the last episode, but I didn't get a chance to. So I believe the last time we spoke, you were just leaving the one job and had started another job, and I guess that's where we pick up off at.
Yeah, like you gave me that timeline of, so this is my third time on the show. Whoop, whoop. My first time was, you said 53, show 53. My second time was, I don't know what show that was, but you said October 2020. So using that timeline, I know exactly where I was in this world. So October 2020 would have been right during COVID, right? Right in the thick of it. So I was like about 3 or 4 months after that show was when I made the decision to move out east. So it was like just early in the next year where I was like, Stewart Farms, Tanner Stewart, the CEO, came for me and I said yes. And that was like, I think March 2021. And then I left. That's like a few months later. I just basically buttoned up what I needed to and left the west side of Canada to the east side of Canada in July, end of July of 2021. And so I've been here since then.
So you must be happy, obviously. I mean, how's things going? And I mean, at one point we kind of talked about like the commercial grow, kind of maybe sucking the life out of
Yeah, for sure.
as it obviously hasn't.
So this is the difference. So the reason I left Alberta to go to New Brunswick, a province I'd never been to before, Canada's one and only bilingual province. I don't speak any French. And I came out here because the opportunity was to learn aquaponics, organic living soil with mentor Kevin Jodry in the wing, and less money actually, but not factory, like commercial, yes, but not factory style at scale. This is real craft cannabis. I think Tanner had said in his offer letter when I was making my decision something like, you'll be leaving factory life, coming to run a farm, you know, and I just like started crying because I was like, yes, that's what I want. And so that's the difference, is that now I make all the creative decisions. I am running that farm as well as helping to manage 6 other partner farms in Atlantic Canada. So PEI, Nova Scotia, we have 2 in Cape Breton, 3 in New Brunswick, and 1 in BC. So it's gotten like, it's just, I've built it basically from nothing, with Tanner and the support of my team, into this like fast moving train that I'm like sometimes scared that I'm going to run over myself, because it's a lot. But it's a partnership of, or it's like building a community of solid, like-minded, positive growers, you know, like versus where I came from. And not everybody is toxic in Alberta. I want to say that for sure. But like the industry out west, BC, Alberta included, those 2 provinces, it's hard. It's like a hard industry to compete in. And people are like dog eat dog, and everybody wants, you know, to steal from you. And again, not everybody, I know I'm using that so wildly, but out here, what I've noticed the difference is, there's a lot of LPs, licensed producers, micro facilities, all working together in like a real sort of win-win type of attitude versus what can I get from you? Like, I want to suck you dry, you know, like, so I stay out here because East Coast cannabis is just nicer.
That's fucking super impressive. That's a lot of work. Holy fuck, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I still have the love for it. You know, that's pretty impressive and awesome. Yeah, with you.
Yeah, I still love it. I mean, some days I'll tell you that I want to quit and run into the woods, but I mean, that's all part of the job. And then I'm still running my own stuff at home too, right? Like, I'm not doing the indoor growing like I used to, but I'm outdoor farming here because it's possible in this, like out east here versus the local climate. When I was in Alberta, it was just too hard. The season's not long enough. So it's like, I'm still doing both, which I'm happy about. Like, I wasn't growing out here for probably like 6 months. And even though I was growing at the farm, I was still, it's depressing, right? To have to take a break. I've not taken a break since I started in like 2015. So it's like, yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but I was kept really busy the first year. Let me tell you about my first year at Stewart Farms. Chaos, like super chaos. Like the first week I got there, Tanner's like, here's a list of like 500 amazing genetics. Pick some of them based on these criteria. We're going to drop like 300 seeds, and we're doing a pheno hunt, and like so exhilarating. Finally I get to do R&D, not just monocropping the same shishkaberry or what black cherry punch. If you're Canadian, you know everyone's grown those. You get to like, you know, do stuff and pick stuff and rate stuff, and so it was very stressful. I'd never dropped that many seeds and like been responsible for like someone else's genetics basically at such a scale level. So I didn't even know what I was going to do. Like, what do you do with 300 seeds? Do you do it the same way you do at home in your paper towels? Yes, you do. That's what I did. And I got 98%, like close to 99% success rate. Like, we had so many plants to cull. And that first year we did 2 runs of the ones that we did keep. With the first run was like 150 different cultivars from 15 different strains, like serious stuff from California, all the stuff you guys love. And the Daily Grape, which is now like one of our best sellers, was one of those top genetics that we were running in that pheno hunt. And that's got Grape Pie and Daily Driver. So like I guess a child of the Sunday Driver, which is super popular, I know, in the States. So I don't know, we just got a lot done in that first year.
500 strains, genetics. That's crazy. How do you,
It's
anybody
research.
listening would think, well, 500 to start. Usually equals like 2000 fucking by, that first
Yeah.
that calling is that's like two. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
We're like in charge. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to make all these decisions and do all these things. And like, yeah, it really turned me into like a severe, like I was pheno hunting at home like a crazy person. Like I had grown over 200 different genetics, just like back to back to back. Like, I'd fill my tent with 25 different things. So I was used to running a lot of different things at the same time, which probably helped in that first pheno hunt to be able to just see what I saw, I guess, or just feel what I felt. And also with the help of my team too, that have different sets of eyes and different brains and, putting all that stuff together. So out of those 300 seeds, I now have 20 genetics. And so those 20 genetics are out of 43 that I have total at the farm now. And not only did we pheno hunt those 300 seeds that we dropped, but also the many genetics that the 4 or 5 other directors before me had started all these pheno hunts and then just left a big mess, basically. So we hunted through all of that, and now we have like a stable library. And only 3 of them we're using for rec. So the rest are sort of just sitting around to sell or have medical value, and we just don't know yet. It's cool stuff.
you were in salts before, right?
Yeah, so I'm really new to organics, literally just the last 2 years. And again, I have a really great mentor and a lot of other people that I go and seek out. There's a really cool living soil network out here out east. Shout out to those guys because if I ever have any issues, like they're more than any of these master growers out here, are more than willing to chat with me about problems and like have real solutions and not just like, so holding on to their information.
That's awesome. Another thing we kind of talked about the last time we spoke was like, yes, I've heard you mention craft a little bit there. And shout out to you for keeping your heart to the craft side there, because I think that's very important. We've talked about that, the coldness of hating what you do and fucking
Mhm.
transforming into the plants a little bit. So it, is it better to have a smaller team? I mean, how's the farm? I mean,
Yeah, it's much better. I honestly have the best team in Canadian cannabis and maybe even the world. I don't know. I have 3 solid guys. I had 2 really for the last 2 years, and then I recently got to hire a plant scientist. So my guys are there every day. They work hard every day. There's no drama. No one's bitching about anything. No one's talking behind people's backs. There's no toxic shit going on. They come in, they work, we shoot the shit a little bit, and we get shit done. And I've never had a team like that. Usually there's a couple of really good players, and then you got to babysit, right? Like it's part of the job. And thankfully, that is not part of my job. So I have all that extra energy to free up instead of babysitting a team, which is what I had been doing. I can like get in there, work with the plants, and then get all the other shit done that I need to do. So it's so much better with a smaller team. You find the right exact people and you keep it really small, I think is the way to do it. And craft cannabis really is like those that put value in quality over profit, right? So my mind and their minds are always quality first. And I actually might plug that we're killing it in Australia. I'm an international drug dealer now. We
dang.
did our first export of Daily Grape to Australia, and I'll tell you, I've never loved reviews on Reddit before. I hate Reddit. It's awful. People are mean. But every single review on Reddit is awesome. Our Daily Grape is smashing it because their market out there is so new. It's like a new medical market. They're not legally like rec legal yet. So these people are real cannabis connoisseurs like us, right? Like medical patients. They are judging it harshly, right? But loving it. So like, to me, that's more valuable than any award or anything like that has happened in Canada so far. Just the last couple of months of these reviews from these medical patients has been like, I cry at some of them. They're so good. Like, they're saying it's the best thing in Australia. It's like a real sativa. It's just, it's outstanding, the kind of reception it's gotten. And we're sending out 2 more different strains, Brittany's Frozen Lemons and Royal Kush. And so that's headed out next week. I'm excited to see what they think about those 2 as well. But it's cool. There's some really cool stuff happening.
That's awesome. So I heard you kind of mention like rec and medical there a few times as a separation. And I believe there is a separation. A lot of people say it's one and the same. I don't think so. And what is your thoughts on medical cannabis these days being on a larger scale? Will there be a division? Will industry even give a shit about medical at some point?
I don't know, you know, what I see over here in Canada, and maybe you're saying the same thing, is that when it became recreationally legal, medical has just gone like from here to like plummeting, like to like nobody cares about medical anymore. Nobody cares about the patients. Everybody wants the highest THC to get the most fucked up. Everyone's, you know, wants, it's just, it's pretty sad. I don't know if that's going to change. I like to think so. What I do is sort of watch what the States is doing, especially out in California or on the west side. You can kind of see what's going to start in Canada, at least legally through the industry. But there is a separation, and it's because the legal industry has created a separation. So if you think about cannabis, medically, recreationally, I always say, like, it doesn't matter if you're using recreationally, you're medicating yourself, right? Whether you know it or not, you're medicating yourself. So it's all medical, period. But when it comes to the 2 entities, it is 2 entities, because corporate cannabis has made it that way. And they've put people against each other now. So it makes it harder to, as an industry worker and a medical patient, to live like in this like middle spot, you know?
So, I mean, is there any notes even being taken on that kind of level as far as like, yeah, this could help somebody, you know what I mean?
There's a few out there that are preaching about it, or there's a lot of people doing way more than me too, like at the government level with advocacy. And those are the people that are going to make changes for sure. Within the industry, my part is to not forget the medical and always completely be medically minded, and always have that first of mind when it comes to releasing any cannabis. When I work with partners and I intake cannabis, I reject anything that I wouldn't smoke myself. So even if they're our partner and they bring me shitty weed, that is not going to go under our brand, you know, like, sorry, not sorry. But like, so that's always still, that's my part, is to make sure that the consumer is educated, first of all, and then secondly, that they're not going to get any sort of crap just to sell it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Actually, at our facility, we're on medical platforms. Medicinus is one, ABBA Medical, and I decide where all of our weed goes, so which batch goes where. And the medical patients in Australia, the other medical patients, they get the best of the best. So they get the biggest, best, most top buds. And that's because they deserve it the most. And not to say that recreational's getting shitty buds, all our weed's great, but like, we fill those prescriptions first, kind of, you know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, it's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm. You can get so much recreational weed, you know, like, and there's a lot of good weed out there now. There's a lot of competition out there. There's some fierce craft growers in Canada now, like not just in BC, but all over the country, in every single province. So recreationally, you have the pick of the litter. You can go into any dispensary and get really great weed. The medical patients have a very limited selection of who and where they can get their weed from. So if we get to be on that platform, I'm going to make sure that they get the best shit possible.
So how many plants per farm, if you don't mind me?
I could talk square feet, I think. Plants, it's hard to keep track month to month, but for right now we have around 3,000 in my farm. So at the St. Stephen facility, and there I would say I probably only have about 1,000 square feet of canopy space. But with all the farms together, actually not including this newest one because it's bigger, but with the 5, it was around 10,000 square feet of canopy space. So some of them are bigger than others. One of them is a full licensed producer, not a micro facility. Like here in Canada, the micro facilities are allowed under 2,000 square feet of space. So it's limited, right? Thousands of plants, thousands.
Gotta be a good feeling.
Especially if they're all healthy, you know, like I'm so proud. I just did a tour the other day and it's like people are, can I bring my camera in? And they always have to ask that because most places you're not allowed to, right? Because the plants aren't healthy and they don't want people taking pictures. So it's cool to be able to bring people through and like, yeah, take pictures everywhere because you won't find any unhealthy plants in here.
So it's awesome to see again that organics on a larger scale. You know, a lot of people said way back when that organics in a larger scale type setting wouldn't work, wouldn't be feasible.
Oh, I see it happening all over Canada. There's a couple of really big places out here that are doing it even bigger, like at scale in living beds. Like it's really cool. One of the newest facilities that we have onboarded out in BC, they use living beds. They're micro facilities, so it's small, but it's really cool where Health Canada is starting to let you. What I heard recently too is use trap plants and have like ornamental peppers in your rooms to use for, you know, catching insects or, you know, pests or whatever. So I need to look into that more because like I've been waiting for this day to be able to like kind of do what I do outdoors, like at work in the inside. Who wouldn't want a couple ornamental peppers in their rooms just to brighten it up?
I think they work good in that aspect too, but I think just as and I think this works as well for like multiple cultivars in a room. I think they play off each other and kind of as a stressor, and it actually improves like turf production, fighting each other for smell, basically.
Yeah, they are. They're all like competing. I've heard things about like the living beds, for example, where there's multiple plants in there. Well, they're all sisters, right? So it's like there's this thing where they say like mama trees protect and nourish like their babies like forever until they die, basically, the ones that they have out in the wild or in the forest. And I like wonder that about plants too, like because cannabis is like one of the most is the most complex chemically plant in the plant kingdom, I would say. I don't know that for sure, but like that tells me that based on previous scientific information on like philodendrons and like that book, The Secret Life of Plants, that they communicate with each other, right? So if you have here like the smartest plant in the plant kingdom, of course it's communicating with each other. So if they're all in the same bed together and they're sisters, like they're probably all working together, and the one over here is like, hey, I need some nitrogen, sis, and she's like sends it over. At least that's how it goes in my head. Well, you're on mute.
Thank you. So how do you think they're communicating?
In the roots, man. The mycelium. The web of life. If you have living organics or you're really growing in organics, living soil, then you have mycelium in there, and that's how they're speaking. That's the telephone pathway underneath the ground for all the plant kingdom anyway. So cannabis inside for sure.
I actually think it doesn't. I think it runs on a deeper level, to be honest with you.
Oh, like an emotional level or vibration level?
Maybe vibrational, but I think it is 100% the mycelia that is the key between us, the plants, and all of it. I think there is something that they can communicate, long distance or maybe through a network. I mean,
yeah.
in
The
that
web.
book, it could sense its
The
own
web.
miles away.
Yeah.
How
I feel
else?
like my plants hear me driving there, like you said, it's definitely vibration, right? Which is why people play music. Like I constantly have music in the rooms, and I'll put my speaker. I have 4 tables in each flower room, and so I put my speaker on the first table when I'm watering, and then the second table when I'm watering, and the third table when I'm watering. So they're feeling it, right? Like the vibrations. The older plants like country music, and the younger plants love hip hop.
That's pretty funny. Are you pulling my leg? Do you really notice that, or are you just?
You notice that, but people think I'm nuts. I got crystals in my rooms. You got the HVAC people's coming in there going, but there's magic to it all for sure. We've had a lot of different catastrophes around and in the farm where things should have gone really badly with plants, and they didn't. The plants held up. They didn't even like really blink an eye. So there's got to be something to the emotional part of like us being there, the crystals that are in the room, the just all of it together, the music.
I think that all plays a big key in quality cannabis. And back to like we were talking about, like the last time we spoke, you minus all that in that environment, and now you're like hate your job and you're around them plants. That's not good cannabis.
No,
That's
that's toxic cannabis. That maybe it'll get you high, but it's not going to do, you're not going to get a good experience. What I want is people to get like a experience out of smoking cannabis, that you're having some sort of experience, not just smoking it. But I mean, if that's what you're doing, you're just smoking it, that's cool too. As long as you're buying the weed.
so I actually been seeing a lot of people lately putting antennas in their plants. Have you seen that? Like a cop
No, tell me more, please.
trying to draw different frequencies to stimulate the plant and the roots.
And what are they seeing? I mean, I'm open-minded about all of it.
Well, the people I've seen talk to obviously are saying they see
Good stuff, right?
10%, more in yields, healthier plants and all that good stuff. But
Yeah,
is that placebo? Is that a placebo between you and your plant? If you're talking to your
it
plant.
is the time. I've tried to apply real scientific stuff to these things personally in the farm, because I have access to many scientists sometimes. Always one for sure. And so we're always running. We get funded a lot for a lot of the aquaponics research that we've done in the last few years. So every single run I do, it's a monocrop of daily grape, but it's also a science experiment. Whether it's we're trying a new soil, or we're trying a new light technique, or I'm doing canopy density stuff, or so we're always, heat mapping the room, knowing what the yield is, right? Basically. And so I have done certain little stress tests, like to test the bro science that I used to believe so strongly in at home. So super cropping creates higher THC buds. False. I've tested it. Scientific with labs. It creates bigger yield. False. I've tested it with labs. So now what I think about super cropping is it's a great training method. And what I learned from Grow Weed Easy actually in my first year of growing was that when you super crop at the right time, which is in veg, not flower, you create like a super highway where your nutrients can, I don't know how it works, but you're basically creating, instead of like a single pathway, a super nutrient highway for things to get jacked up. And I don't know whether or not that's true or not, but certain things you're able to test, right? So the magic of crystals does not create a higher yield, because I've tested it. Nor does it contribute to the quality in the way that you would look at it, like a sommelier would look at it, like visually, aroma, like it's the same. But when it comes to like getting through like some, stressful times in the grow room, that's where these things are happening. And that's where I can't prove it, but I have my my eyes and I see what I see. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna still keep using them, because it's more about protection than anything else.
I think there is a lot to the stones and stuff like that. I know firsthand, I've actually, have you ever Midnight Roots? You ever heard of Midnight Roots, Jake?
Nope.
Awesome grower here in Michigan.
Sweet.
And he believes a lot in with crystals and stuff as well.
I'll have to add.
At one point, I noticed right around the time a lot of us were reading, The Secret Life of Plants and stuff, and wondering how they communicated and stuff like that. He kind of did what they were doing as far as being able to pick up. And he basically, it's like almost like a guitar pickup that you can put alligator clips on. And he was working with the plants, and you can like clip clip it in two spots, and you can actually, through these devices, you can hear the plant, as it, and each different parts of the plant have different frequencies or different pulses.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
And as you talk with them, they actually can kind of pick up whatever. And
I've seen it visually too. Have you seen your plants perk up when you're in there for a long period of time, singing to them directly, like right in there? You can tell. But yes, I love this because it's real scientific stuff.
So, and he has done it a lot on his channel, videos of him doing it. Different plants, different strains, making different noises and stuff like that. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
And well, before I get too far, with the last interview we had, we were talking about all this, and we were talking about plants and how they communicated. And I asked him, how he was working with all that. So he happened to have a plant in the room, and he brings it out of the dark, and he starts hooking up stuff, and he's like, well, keep in mind, it was kind of in the night cycle and the sleep cycle, and it was barely communicating. And the more we kind of talked about it, the more it kind of woke up and responded. The more we talked about the plant. I mean, in particular, it would perk up.
It likes to hear about.
I asked him, I says, Jake, we're both into crystals and stuff like that. I know you have some crystals around there, right? He's like, yeah. I says, will you drop one next to that plant? We've been talking about crystals and oils for a while now. So he goes and gets a crystal, and he drops it at the base of the plant. And that fucker went nuts. The
I knew it.
The whole time that thing was next to the plant, that thing was going crazy.
Yeah. I've heard, I don't know who they is, but elders maybe, or I've learned that, it was an elder that told me this, that you put the rock, it doesn't have to be a crystal you buy from a store, because I have rocks I found at the beach or whatever that I clean, Health Canada, don't worry, and put it there. You're supposed to put it like right by the base, like you just said, like in the trunk. And that is like the sweet spot for where you put your stones or whatever. So that's really cool to hear, because that validates that.
So I think there is something. They are communicating. They are picking up our vibrations. I know.
Yeah, I follow that person. We're gonna be best friends.
Another thing that we talked about that I thought would be kind of cool was because of the two things he could do. Both the different plants, different strains made different noises or different frequencies, basically. And he could also, on this pickup, because it was like ran through like an organ or some shit, he could change the way we heard it. So like he could go, all right, this is the plant talking in oboe. This is the plant talking in piano. You know what I mean? And I suggested, I'm like, you need to do a few plants and do different instruments and just do you like a plant radio. And then that was what we play in our grow room, is like plant music by plants to the plants.
Oh my God, that's like a very deep level of plant music. I was like, wow, that's like a super band. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it would work. I'd like to see somebody at least try it.
Oh yeah, I totally screen that or buy that.
So what have some of the things you've learned since you've made the switch?
Oh man, so many things. I've learned what I've learned probably the most, and what I am most grateful for is proper irrigation techniques. And that's literally by going through rooms over and over, hand watering, like plant by plant. So picking the plant up and just like, we had a lot of different crises with different living soils. And I'm just constantly in a soil crisis as in Canada anyways, soil companies go out of business. So yeah, like just having to like really read the plants, because some soils are very good and light and they're just like boom boom, like you just know, like a pro mix type soil is probably the easiest to irrigate, right? But then you have like really sludgy, composty, cementy type soils, and you don't want your plant to suffer. So we would baby these plants and like learn exactly the sweet spot of where you need to water them, like if it is it, you know, right, make sure you're just getting the top, you know. So that's probably one of my best skills now, because it is one of the most important too, especially when you're doing a facility type grow or a large plant type grow. Irrigation is so important.
So you're hanging water and all those plants? Don't get me wrong, I love the idea, by the way.
That's craft cannabis, my friend. Yeah, when you're touching each plant every single day, yeah. So we do, and that's where I say again, I have the best team ever, because those guys are exactly minded as me. So they're no one's skipping a step, whether I'm looking or not. You know what I mean? Like they care just as much as I do and want to pick up the plants and make sure that they're getting the exact amount of water that they need every single day. That's why we have such healthy plants. It's that we all have the exact same irrigation. That's why there's so many memes about irrigation, right? And water your plants. Stop watering your plants. You're overwatering your plants. In soil, it's so important to get a proper dry down or you have no yield. Like I started with not knowing what the fuck I was doing and having shitty soil on top of it, to see the yield go from basically 7 kilograms for 320 square feet of space to 15 kilograms in a year, right? Like that's double, more than double, based on proper soil, proper irrigation. It's just so important. I've seen it firsthand.
I'm surprised that on a larger scale that you guys aren't kind of like doing your own soil, because like you're saying, with companies coming and going, it means a constant learning curve basically because of the inconsistency, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's pushing me into that. So I've been slowly gathering information about soil, like really since I've met Brandon Russ, first of all, and Jack Greenstock and all those fellas that I used to run with. They really, shout out to them for getting me started in organics, because I started experimenting at home before I even learned about Stewart Farm. So I was already dabbling. But yeah, like even Brandon, probably not in a while, but like he will help me out in a second if I ask him for a soil recipe or whatever, right? So I am slowly like feeling confident enough to be able to do that. And again, I knew our soil company that we were using went out of business. So I'm in the middle of doing basically that anyways with different sort of amendments, and just using it as needed, top dressing style. So not really amending ahead of time, but I mean, it's coming to that, right? Because I literally have no soil options except for ones that I've used in the past that were shitty, you know? So you get stuck in a situation, and we'll see. Maybe I'll be the soil queen of Canada in 20 years. No, I want to be the soil king.
It's a obviously if people are playing whack-a-mole there, somebody needs to take over there. Sounds like.
Yeah, I really thought about it. So as I learn, you know, it'll be a whole learning experience over the next probably 5 years. But I know I have this feeling that is where it's going, and that's probably going to be my next challenge. Is they're like, okay, now you have universe is they. It's like now you have enough of a base level skill in organics and soil. Like I went from not knowing how it even uploads the nutrients to like knowing how all of that works, right? And like having this like actual visual understanding. But saying that, still such a beginner, and really like again bringing up around and like listening to some of these people talk, and I'm like, no, it scares me right away. It's so intimidating, right? To be like, I can't build my own soil. That's crazy. Like these people know what they're talking about. So I'm just slowly getting to that place of where I'm just getting more confident. But you never know, right? Give me 20 years, imagine. I just did a bunch in 5 years. Imagine what I could do in 20.
Right. So I got to back up here and chat. I say I watch chat, but I don't let chat run it. You know what I mean? Isn't
Yeah,
necessarily. I got my stuff first.
Yeah, they're patient fellows and ladies.
They are, but they want to know what's the strain of choice if there could only be one. That's by Poops 420 wants to know.
Okay. Does he mean to grow or to smoke? Because those would be two different ones.
Oh, that shouldn't be though.
Personally or commercially, because like different strains for different situations, right? Like there's strains like my favorite strain. Okay, I've now grown over probably 300. I gotta count. I gotta get out my Bible and count, but probably for sure over 300 different cultivars. And my favorite to this day will always be the CBD I left behind in Alberta. And that was the Candida that I won all those awards with as a personal grower. She was a unicorn, and I just let her slip away. But she was great to grow because she was a true hemp. She was like under 0.7 or whatever that deal, or 0.3, or I don't know what the deal is, but tested quite a few times. And really high CBD. I think the highest I had her was 16% CBD. So like a true hemp cultivar, but with a super kick-ass amount of CBD. But she grew like a sativa, like how I imagine a real landrace sativa would grow, like taller than me, like, you know, just like pretty and pink and purple, and 14 weeks took forever. It was just a really hard plant to grow, so also very challenging. So dialing that strain in over a couple of years was, yeah, that built me into the grower I am today for sure. As far as smoking it though, like I barely smoked it because I mean, I use CBD, I make topicals, and I make infuse it, oils and stuff, but I don't smoke it generally. I like THC a lot. I will do like a balanced or 1-to-1. I do enjoy those, but I need that THC kick.
What are you growing at home?
Oh man. Yeah, let's talk about that. So this whole year, every year since I left my genetics in Alberta, so the last 2 years, so 2 seed drops, I've been at home. And so this most recent one has Liberty Haze from Barney's Farm, which I've grown before and love. I have purple Afghan Kush from Miss Jill, which I've grown before and love. I have in-house genetics in there with, it's called Jelly Bean. I was hunting that, and I have 2 in there. Cherry Tonic Web is a CBD from Purple Caper. He's a great guy in San Francisco. That's one of my new favorite CBDs to grow now. It's what I'm trying to replace the Candida with. And then eventually, if I find anything in my house, I could bring into a commercial setting. So I figure what I do at home too, like I'm thinking about work at the same time. If there's something that pops up at home that I think would be a good strain for either the rec market or medical market, then I would bring it in, but I just haven't found anything like that.
Does it work the other way when you find something fire at work? You're like, I'm taking a cut of that home.
Yeah, if there weren't cameras everywhere, but there is a way to do it legally now. I didn't shout this out yet, but at Stewart Farms and in New Brunswick, Ontario, BC, they have this new law, farm gate. It's legislation where it allows the licensed producer to build and own and sell out of a storefront. So we just opened our first private retail store here, not at the farm. I live there though, basically at the farm though. So it's like right out front, Stewart Farms dispensary. And so the most exciting thing about that is that you get to sell clones. So guess who picks the genetics that gets sold out of our farm gate store? This girl. So yes, I do. If we're not going to be using it, like I would never obviously be able to, or like the Daily Grape, which is selling all over everywhere, be able to put that in our farm gate store and let the community grow it, right? But I can take out, there's stuff in there that maybe I don't care about the Daily Grape. I care about this like 7 of 9 that came back 15% THC, but tastes like turkey dinner and just knocks me the fuck out, like, so no one wants to buy it. It's not for sale. Like, nobody recreationally, like no LPs want it. It kind of Hermes at the end too, like with nothing that's dangerous, but like just the banana ones, get stressed out. So it's like farm gate. So I get to bring it home now, right? That's pretty cool. And then in the fall, I'm going to release a CBD strain to farm gate because no one buys CBD genetics anymore, right? Like no one's growing CBD. I don't know if it's the same out there, but like it's a hard sell. And so we're never going to run it. It's 14 weeks, but I would like it to buy it. And there's a lot of people in the community that would love to grow their own CBD and then make their own like capsules or whatever, right? So it's expensive. So that'll be one that I release in the fall for indoor growing.
So how does larger scale feel about the dirty word of autos?
Autoflowers, hey? I don't really see anyone using them out here. I personally love them and I still grow them all the time at home. I actually was just at an event in Edmonton, Grow Up Edmonton, and there's like a guy that breeds out there that gave me a Ziploc bag of autoflowers. So I'm pretty excited to like start planting them outside right away. But yeah, no one's buying it. No autoflowers. Never seen one facility ever use them.
Good news. Good news.
I've heard of people in the States using them though. That to me doesn't sound financially like sustainable. I don't know, because you can't I guess some people say you can clone them, but I've not seen successfully people clone like where they're a big enough plant that you could get weed off of it.
It would seem like, and this is where I think people say that it can be done, but theoretically, to me, it seemed like if you really wanted clones, you'd re-veg it. Just sacrifice that one plant, let it re-veg, and then come out with a bunch of branches, and then
Yeah. I personally, I don't know how that works for autoflowers, so I don't have, the knowledge, I guess. I've only ever run them once and done, There's
Yeah.
been I wanted to keep, like I've had a couple dark devils, because I've had a lot of shitty autoflowers too. Like, let's be honest, 60% of the autoflowers I've popped have been fucking shit. But I love a good shitty plant. Like, I love a misfit. I love a tiny little guy that I can throw in a group pot. No big deal. If autoflower comes out shitty, I just grew one on my when I did the seed pop. I didn't mean to pop any autoflowers, but this one breeder, they're not Pheno. They're definitely autoflowers. So I stuck it out on my table with all my house plants and let it flower out there. And I got like a tiny little bud at the end, and it smelled like blueberries or berries and smoked pretty nice. But they're not good for yield.
Tell me more about the turkey dinner. Turkey dinner for real? That sounds like a hard sell, but I mean, if anything's got a good enough buzz, I mean, the turkey did. I mean, that's
like savory,
turkey profile I've never heard of yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the first time I ever smoked it, and every single person that I had test it, I don't think anyone said turkey dinner, but it was all like savory, or I think someone said chicken soup. And I was like, close enough. But it's like peppery, savory, like when you get like a garlic sort of strain, I guess, would be like a similar cheesy, like I guess it's just a certain, I've never smelt it before or tasted it, and it's a smooth, very nice smooth. Yeah, you'll see more of it in my tent soon because I bought it last week, so it's growing at work, and I'll bring it home next week.
I think we need to come back a little bit. That I've never been a big advocate of the THC levels going up being a good thing. I think as we go up and up and up, we get further and further away from the medicinal benefits of the plant. I think we're taking it in the way wrong direction for at least medical benefits.
Yes, I agree. I'm not a THC hunter. I could care less about THC as a consumer. As an industry worker, I have to care about THC because of how weed sells out here. So basically, it's like capped at, if you have anything under 25%, you're getting like $1 under a gram. If you have above 25%, you're maybe getting like $2.50, $3 a gram. And this is from the buyer, right? Bulk. And then 30 plus, I think, is when you start getting the better prices, like $4 a gram or $3.50 a gram, or, and those are high prices. $4.50 a gram is like unicorn price.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like there's so much weed on the market out here. When you look at the cannabis exchange, it's like people are buying probably pretty good weed for 80 cents a gram. Like, what? Like, who's making any money out here? Nobody. We all live check to check. Like, I'm in it for different reasons. I would never own a company though, like a cannabis company. So risky. Like, I just watch, they're all going under. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but like the last one I came from no longer exists. The first one I came from no longer exists. The second one, Sundial, they're stopping their growing. Like, they're laying people off left and right. Like, so they're not quite done yet, but I see what's happening over there. So like, that's a big one too. Like, big players are going out, little players are going out. Like, the competition is fierce.
That's sad to hear, to be honest with you.
It is. It's the depressing part of like, so if you're like still have your head above water and you're not making money, no one's making money. But if you have your head above water, like, you're killing it, man. And like, we've all aged a lot in the last 5 years working in this industry, and I'm sure everyone has, just with the world how it is. But yeah, it's a lot of hustle and not a lot of benefit right now.
I've seen a lot of good growers here in Michigan kind of take the hit this last year and kind of you know.
No one's investing money in weed anymore. It's way too risky. Like, investors got burnt, at least out here at the beginning of cannabis, like legal cannabis in 2018. And they were handing out money left and right a couple of years, and things tightened up and tightened up and tightened up. And now they're at an all-time tightness. Like, trying to gain or get capital investment is like next to impossible.
And there's a small part of me that hopes in this mess that a lot of good shit will come back, like long-term flower plants and stuff like that, because we've got all these great growers out there that at one point we let flower time dictate our rooms. Many turnovers as we could get. That's what we wanted. Money, you know what I mean? Flip.
But it's here,
Now, if it is, the market isn't there and we're growing just for ourselves, what's the harm of letting a couple, one or two long flower go in the background? And I think as though, that happens, and then we go to these fucking get-togethers that we usually go to, and we smoke together, we're going to be like, what in the fuck is that? And then it'll be like, oh man, it's a sativa that I've been growing, man. It takes forever, but it knocks you on your ass. And I think that will bring back some of the, really awesome long flower time bud there.
I hope so. Like, I miss a real sativa. And that's why I spoke so highly of that Candida too, or like really any sativa that I'm allowed to grow. When I first got there, I was allowed to grow this Hollywood OG that's 12 weeks, right? Like Tanner, all his strains were 12 weeks, which is so odd in the legal industry, which he's learned now. Now we do 8 and 9 weekers. But he would love to bring the Hollywood OG back again. Like, as soon as we start making a little bit of money and I have 2 new rooms, there could be a room back there, exactly like you said, where I run 12-week strains, or we can run the CBD strain that's 14 weeks or whatever. But until you make a little bit of money, or the consumer starts wanting that, because we have to follow those trends, right? Then that probably won't happen. But that's probably another one of my favorites, is that Hollywood OG. But it's so long that it doesn't have a space in the industry anymore.
So I guess that's another question there. When it comes to like tomorrow strains, what you guys are gonna possibly add, what's in consideration that? I mean, you kind of said you got to follow the wave there. Is it gut, or is it
ahead of the wave too? So you got to follow it, but be ahead of it. So, which I've tried to be, at least while I've been there. The grape was ahead of it because there really isn't any true grape strains. There's a lot of grape named strains, but not real true aroma, grape smell like that. I learned actually from Jack Greenstock that the grape, the strawberry, the pineapple, those are esters, not terpenes. And so it's probably a harder find, is what I think. So that's what chose that. And so you got to kind of find like those real outliers to compete. So there was that. And now my next one, which is the only other out of 300 seeds, the only other one that I think can compete in the rec market is what I'm currently dialing in. So I have a banana pudding tain, which is a really dank strain. There's no skunks on the market right now. Like, that good old school 90s skunk or whatever, like White Widow is my favorite strain ever. And I can never find it. I see it like marketed everywhere. I buy it and it's not skunk, like, nope. There's also no cheeses, like real cheeses. You see it everywhere, but I buy it and it's not. So this is a real skunk I have, which is how I chose it. I didn't even get a THC test on it. I eliminated based on physical attributes and the effect afterwards. But But the other unique part about this strain is I've kept 2 phenos from it, and the only distinct feature is the one has like a really distinct banana bread or like ripe banana smell, along with that skunk. So it's very unique, right? It's an outlier. So I'm trying to dial that in right now. Then when I got it THC tested, it came back at the one pheno at 33% and the second pheno at 39%, which is ridiculous. It's like lab shit. We can go for another 2 hours talking about the shadiness of labs, cannabis labs. I primarily try to work with universities or people that don't have their whole bodies in the cannabis game, to get those real better results. But anyways, because they came back that high, I know for sure that they are very high. They are not probably 33 and 39%, but they're probably 28 and 30% is what I'm thinking. Which sells weed, right? So you got to think about that shit. So that's what I'm dialing it in for, is the rec market.
It's sad that is it. I'm actually worried a little bit. I know the consumer is a big part of it, but I'm afraid that as recreational cannabis goes through, that right there is trying to stay ahead, trying to follow the hype is really gonna bottleneck what the consumer gets in the long run, because the larger grows aren't gonna want to take the chance. They're not gonna want to do the pheno hunts. They're just
they buy genetics typically.
Yeah.
The big places are buying it. Like we're a nursery too, so I also sell genetics. So there's ones that we're not using that we'll sell to other LPs. Like, well, we're using actually Brittany's Frozen Lemons, which is a Capillator special release. It's a Frozen Lemons Britney Spears pheno. Anyways, it's fucking fabulous, and everyone loves it because it's high in terpenoline, which is an outlier. And we sold it to Organigram and to Sundial, and they're both selling it like all over Canada. So that's kind of another really cool way that through genetic sales to larger factories, I kind of have not a deciding factor or anything like that, but like a little bit of a hand in of like what's going out into the industry, right? Like, so this pheno, for example, like we're super proud of it and we're glad that it's everywhere, although we're growing it the best. So we're still selling it too. And we're able to keep up in that market because they're doing it at a large scale, 500,000 square foot facility type deal. And we're doing it hydro, and we're doing it living soil, organics, aquaponics. Like all of our partners are also living soil. So people, the real consumers, will buy that over, the factory one. You got 2 Brittany's Frozen Lemons. One's like craft cannabis and one's comes out of a machine, basically. I don't know which one you're gonna buy.
Craft every time.
Yeah, and it's probably the same price too.
Mainly I always like supporting the little guy though. I lean craft everywhere, every time, no matter what. I
like to go wherever I can. I'm recently trying to work with this lab out here too. It's like does cannabis, but not like at the scale that like these labs just pop up and only do cannabis. This is an actual accredited lab, not like these other labs that are not accredited or expected to be, which is absolutely insane. But again, if their THC doesn't match what we're used to, we can't switch over, so it's like it's hard to compete and want to stay local or stay with the little guys.
Do you ever think, how far away do you think we are from like a normalization to where, we'll be able to have the farmers market, the everyday grower will be able to share or, table or whatever again?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll ever be a thing, or how far away?
I think so. I hope so. I still see it going on illicitly, I guess. but I'm glad when I still see it, you know, like that's kind of where I started, was like the tail end of the illicit market, right? So it's like I don't have roots there or anything, but I like to see it win still, like when it's good, not when it's like corrupt and crime filled and stuff, but when it's good home growers just sharing with each other, like, you know, I see events going on and I'm still happy to be a part of anything and see all of that. But that's the only place I see it flourishing right now. In the future, like it would be, I think so, through Farmgate, the way what I was trying to or what I was talking about earlier, like with our store, that is going to be the start of cannabis tourism, at least in Canada and in the provinces that are allowed to do it. Because these people can come to our store, buy our cannabis, and then we have sort of like, you know, a nice little area set up for people to go and consume. And then right now, that's just the beginning part of it. But soon, we'll be able to build trails and stuff in the back parts of our land, and people will be able to come and like, you know, consume and go for walks and do things like that. So that's kind of the beginning of it. And then eventually, like what you were talking about, you know, then the markets come into place, and then people are going to be able to do they're going to have a micro facility on their land and a store, and, you know, have a farmer's market sort of atmosphere. They'll sell their honey. Maybe it's infused with cannabis, maybe it's not. And then they'll sell their eggs or whatever, and then they'll sell their cannabis. And I for sure can see it happening in this province anyways.
Yeah, I have multiple problems with the recreational thing. For one, like if for me, it's the fight that it was never good for you. No medical value, but then we totally jumped to medical, and now it's okay. Recreational won't hurt you. Party away with it. That
Yeah.
part bugs me a little bit as far as you know the division goes.
Yeah. That divide, I don't know if it will get better or worse. Right now, it seems so, for it to get better seems far away, you know what I mean? So I don't want to be negative about it, but I'll just choose to be hopeful, I guess. But I don't see when that's going to change or how that's going to change. And that's why I'm so like excited about Australia and like really diving into that world. And because that is that atmosphere, that it's just medical over there, right? Like, so it's on this high level, you know, which I love.
I know. I can't believe that we're so ignorant here about the whole medical value about it, or studying it, or whatever. And the other thing about like the recreational part of it, okay, it is recreational.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's call it recreational. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So why is
Party down, I guess. Weed.
the only place that we can do it is our homes? Why can't we, you know, we're gonna be able to recreational smoke, we should have places to recreational smoke. You know what I mean? It shouldn't just be something we take home and consume. We
Yeah, it's very strict, province to province here too. But there are places that do, like this event that I was just at in Alberta. I don't know what the process is, but they were able to have a consumption lounge, right? Where we could like, it was weird because it was at the Shaw Conference Center where they used to have Hemp Fest, which is when it was illegal. And we would go out onto the balcony and like smoke, but like smoke our joints like illegally. And this year, we're going to the Shaw Conference Center for this legal event where they had a legal consumption lounge where we used to illegally smoke our joints. Like, it was just like wild. And last year in Ontario, in Toronto, at the event I was at, same thing, they were allowed to have a consumption lounge. So it must be moving in that direction, where, or at least there, and I see spaces too, like in the bigger cities where cannabis is allowed to be consumed, right? Like you can't just consume it everywhere. There are rules in each city, municipally, but I've seen it. So it's, you know, or I've heard of people too, like there's loopholes where you can get in and there's a bakery somewhere that's like legal. And I just don't know how, and maybe people aren't sharing the information, but like, I'd love to see more of that. Like, you know, because Health Canada, at least from what I've going through GMP auditing and regular Health Canada auditing and that type of thing, you can see that there's a lot of vagueness in the rules. And so people are learning how to manipulate within. So I have not been able to do that because I'm just like, you know, at the start of learning all the rules and whatnot. But if you are really keen, you know, and know that legislation really well, you can also manipulate it. You're on mute.
There we go. I think Canada's got a more realistic or fair approach to medical cannabis, to where here in the States, it's foolish the amount recreationally party. You can have as much as you want. Call it medical. Well, now we've got to watch the numbers, and you can only have so much. You can only buy so much. You can only carry so much. It's silly.
And like different scripts for different THC levels, I've heard too.
Yeah, the only thing I think is the beauty or the manipulation in the cannabis system is more of I dab, so I have to have way more plants to press. And Canada's like, yeah, that's cool. Go ahead. How many more do you need? So again, I think, yeah, Canada's got a better medical system.
Yeah, although I heard this year they're starting to clamp down on those high licenses. So you're right. You used to be able to basically just go, there's businesses, I don't know anymore, where you could go, I'm sure they're still around, but where you go and basically they hook you up with a doctor that'll give you whatever kind of script you want. Like, so if you want 900 plants and you know, your script is going to cost you $1,500. If you want 50 plants and your script's going to cost you $200 type thing or whatever. And we're like, Health Canada, like, you know, like these people don't need 900 plants. I'm not a rat, but I know a lot of people were complaining about that. And so I've heard this year is that Health Canada is not giving out those big licenses anymore because they're the ones that give it out in the end. The doctor signs the prescription, but then you get the license in the mail from Health Canada. So they're approving it, right? So that's the part where I think they're starting to deny people now. So it's not like they're seeing it for the first time. I used to buy my scripts too, right? It's been going on for a while.
So will they grandfather the old ones in?
That's what I don't know. That's what people are worried about, I think, right now. And honestly, I don't know if decisions have been made or what, but because of their lack of care, it seems in the last few years about medical patients, like people are worried about that. And because of what's going on in the States and in different states, right, about medical patients. And, you know, it's the trend, right? It's what's happening out there. It comes up here eventually.
So what are you smoking on tonight? Are you smoking? I don't think I've seen you smoke anything tonight.
I have, but I kept talking, so I was putting it out. But I smoked this whole thing, and now I have one more, so I'm gonna start it up. This is actually, what did I roll up today? This is Daily Grape mixed with Royal Kush from another facility that I had to take home and test. I gotta make sure the ash is clean. That's what Canadians complain about the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a hard lesson in the first year, and that was none of the weed that we grew at the farm, but there was one facility that we were partnered with, and every single strain he grew, he wrecked somehow in processing, and like it was just impossible to bring it back. And every single batch would burn really, really black and like would go out constantly. Like the worst thing ever that could happen if you're going to buy a pre-roll or any weed, you know, especially how expensive things are. You want it to smoke and not be like completely, you know, that black crusty stuff or whatever that you get. So yeah, I had to work through complaints at the beginning, and then we finally got rid of that guy. So no more black ash. So it's one of the things that I like as they bring in the weed, the final decision on where or what we're going to do with it is based on, does it have clean ash? Does it taste clean? You know, we get the lab tests obviously, but you got to try it too, right? Like a chef.
So how do you guys decide whether or not if you guys are going to grow for flower? Or do you guys shoot for extracts at all?
No, so the other side of Stewart Farms, or the bigger side of Stewart Farms, is it's bath products and topical products. And so we have a big, like we have, my cultivation is probably 2,000 square feet of total like space, whereas the production side is like probably 6. And that's because those maniacs are over there making handcrafted bath bombs and bath salts, and we have a bazillion SKUs. And so extracts, although would be exciting, and I love learning about that, we don't have the space to do anything on site. We thought about hash before. We are currently thinking about contracting like a local small extract company to maybe partner with us, because we do get a lot of pheno hunt weed that we could use to press or bubble hash, or make extracts, that kind of thing. But right now it's just too many things on the go.
So this is something I'm kind of curious about on a larger scale. And I've been talking about this a little bit lately, last month or so, is protecting brand image, basically. I guess that's the only way I can really think of it. So basically what I'm saying when I say that is, obviously when we sell our product to anybody, we hope that it's not gonna sit around for any reason. It's gonna be consumed, it's gonna be sold, it's whatever. It's going on to its final resting place, ultimately consumed, right?
Yes.
We hope we don't want it sitting around on a shelf or whatever. But things happen, whatever. But once your product is now past date or anything like that, I see a lot of these shops still selling branded cannabis for, say, discount priced, or giving it away or next to nothing, but still being sold. Now, if that were my brand, and I've seen this, one of the things that bring me say this is I've seen it around 420. People getting all these deals on cannabis, but a lot of it was close to date or just out of date. That's where a lot of the deals were coming from there. And in a lot of cases, some of them were like terrible. And again, I'm like, that reflects on the brand. That should have never made it to the consumer. So
Yeah.
in my head, honestly, I can't figure out why there isn't people in the forefront. Why doesn't bigger cannabis have like agents? So like say you said you sent your product out to Australia. I believe there should be a representative in Australia that checks the dispos there to make sure none of the product random drop-ins, just to
Yeah.
make sure none of the products out of date, still up to brand standards. And if there's anything that not up to snuff, hey, we take this right back. You know what I mean? Here you go. We want the best of the best out here for our brand. We don't want, you know, poor sales to reflect on the brand. I think there should be stuff like that happening to
Yeah.
protect image.
You're absolutely right. And it's happening on a small level in facilities like mine, where there's not just me, but the operations manager and the quality assurance manager, all that same minded. So consumer focus, quality focus. And Australia specifically has higher quality standards for everything, including microbial counts and things like that. And so we also need a GMP certification, which is a whole other thing that I had to go through. But the quality is higher there, and they do have that person inspecting it on the other end. And if there's even one complaint, we speak to it. So in my whole career with Stewart Farms, I think we've had 11 complaints total about the weed, and it was all in regards to that same guy with the black ash. And so that was dealt with, right? But every single one of those complaints was dealt with by saying, we're sorry you had a poor experience. We don't want that. How can we help? You know, we reimburse them their money. We reimburse them with a new pack. Plus, here's a bunch of bath bombs from Katrina, and she sends like a beautiful care pack, you know, like, don't hate us. This, you know, we're trying our best because things happen, right? Bottles will slip through. I send out 600 bottles of Daily Grape to Australia. Maybe one of them might have a defect or something because it's got slipped by, but we try our best to not let that happen. So it just depends on the people you have. If your people don't give a shit, then the shit is getting by. If you think about people on the line, people who care and like are pulling out the stuff, and then there's people who probably just let it like fly by, like who gives a fuck, mold, whatever, like get it all through. Irradiation, right, too, that's the other thing that's big out here. We don't irradiate our weed at all because we don't need to. We pass every single time. But that's another thing, people are irradiating the weed and not telling consumers. You know, if I'm a consumer, especially a medical patient, I want to know if my weed hit the microwave or not, you know, like that's important to me. Well, you're on mute again. It's late.
I do it all the fucking time. I'm sorry. Seems like by just so you know, hitting it with any kind of wave, it seemed like you would be changing it molecularly.
You do.
I mean, so when is it being done? Before or after that initial testing? Are you getting the same product that was tested, you know, before it was eradicated?
Well, here in Canada, you do have to test after you irradiate. So I don't know about the States though, but I know for sure here you do have to afterwards because they're checking microbially. I don't know if you have to get a different THC test done or like, because here you're sending a C of A or a certificate of analysis, and you're sending it for a chunk of it's for microbial testing, a chunk of it's for heavy metal testing, a chunk of it's for pesticide testing, a chunk of it is for THC and CBD cannabinoid testing, and a chunk of it is terpene testing, and a chunk of it is anaphylaxins or whatever those things are. There's like there's 8 different things that they're testing for, at least in Canada here. So microbially, I know at least they're testing that again after, just to make sure that it's no longer a problem. But to me, it's like I've literally opened a container from somewhere and you can see that it has powdery mildew or that it's brown and it's got bud rot, 3.5 grams of shit. And you call the customer service line and you're like, hey, I got this shit and there's no way I'm smoking this, or I wouldn't even like put it on my skin or make it into a topical. And they won't do anything for you. They're just like, oh, well, it's been irradiated, so it's fine. It's like, well, is it though? No, it's not fine. So just because you threw it in the microwave or whatever it is, like that doesn't mean that I would want to smoke it, you know? Like, I don't know. Consumers are not aware of certain things.
That's sad. Just because they don't know, don't mean it makes it right by any means.
So technically I could do that too, or we could do that as a company, but I choose not to as a person, you know? So that's kind of what you're fighting against out here. You have to really be passionate, and there's just very little passion, real passion in Canadian legal cannabis.
I think that goes for legal cannabis across anywhere. Yeah.
They're in there though, because I've met these people at events, you know, it's the small misfit crew or whatever, usually the weed nerds, you can find them. They're there, but it's like 5% of the bigger community, which
there's community and there's industry. There's two different. I think the one that we just spoke of is the industry.
Yeah.
Sadly.
It's like, and then again, it's like stuck in the middle, right? Like I want to run over and like, I want everyone to be friends, I guess. But not everyone wants to be friends. So I have to accept it that this is just how it is, you know? And so I can run on both worlds because I am from both worlds, you know, and it is separate and it's just how it is.
So I guess I'm curious on how do you guys harvest on a larger scale? When do you guys, is it like any like a larger scale produce where you got trying to stay a little bit harvest early because you know the product's gonna age, you know
Yeah.
that.
Not at all. Not where I am because I make that decision. But yes, at other places, it's a schedule, and I can understand that language too, but that doesn't mean they grow good weed, right? So it's a factory setting. Yes, you got to stick to a schedule, but then you should have strains in there that are going to have that exact schedule, right? Where you're not going to have to be taking them too early, but a lot of places are taking things early. That is like, that's been going on. But that's how us as craft cannabis growers are gonna and have been escalating ourselves because we're taking things at the proper time. Literally, I'll tell you my process. So I know that the daily grape, for example, will go 60 days, but that doesn't mean I take it on day 60 every single time. Every batch is different. And so the week before harvest is when we start checking the trichomes, which is the first thing that you check, right? So you're looking at that. You want everything to be mostly cloudy. And then the next thing is the plant development, right? So you're looking for that perfect crutch or whatever that word is between maturity of trichomes and maturity of plant, right? The perfect storm. And so in order to get that, you have to be at one with the room. So I go into the room that morning, and maybe it's not happening that morning, but I'll go in there and I'm like literally ask the plants if it's harvest day. And I can like go through the room. I'm not using the microscope anymore because it's done, it's ready. Like, are you ready? And it either is ready and it says yes right away, or it's not ready. And so I do the same thing the next day until it's ready. So we'll take it anywhere from day 58 to like 61, 62. And my guys are on the same wavelength with that. And so once we decide that it's ready, I make everyone vacate the room. I smudge up front. I'm not allowed to bring that stuff in the back yet, but like I do a full smudge, thank the plants for the whole process because they've been alive for about 4 months, right? Like, so I just show my respects. Think I just want like have a good harvest. I want my team to be uplifted. And then I go into the back and I play some goodbye music and I just go through each row and I just say goodbye. And I again thank the plants for what they've done. And then I bring the guys in and then we start chopping the plants down one by one. So daily grape, we have 4 tables of it. There's usually around 300 plants in the room, which is not a big room compared to some rooms I've had 4,000 plants, you know, and that's a chaos place for harvest. But here we can do it with 3 people. And sometimes there's 4 layers of trellis. So you're fighting with the trellis. You literally have to take them out one by one. And we're just really careful. Labor reasons, we take all the fan leaves off, usually the couple days before. And then literally just go through it like a web and take them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hang them. They get a full plant hang for 14 days in our dry room. And we just take them down. We usually have to do it in 2 days. So it's a 2-day process because we take our time. Now you know my secrets. My secrets, that's my harvest secrets. That's how I get 30 to 33% on each batch of daily grape.
I think it's awesome process. So that's craft. That's craft.
We're a producer where it's not a micro facility. Like I'm running a real, you know, at scale facility, and I do that there, and other people could do, you know, what they want there too. So not at that, maybe they're not extreme like me or as out there as me, but like, you know, you can take pride and like, you know, care about the plants, like at the very least, right? So like, I think as long as growers are doing that, then they're in it for the right reasons. If you're, like you said earlier, toxic and no longer loving your job, then it's like, is the same as if when I was a social worker working with people, when I no longer love my job, I need to get out because I'm no longer at service to anybody, including myself. Same thing now.
Well, you're doing the craft at a much larger scale than, when I talk about craft. I think like, maybe 100 plants per person craft. I think, in my opinion, that's where it maxes out. If you're going to put it together a team, but obviously, you guys are way above those numbers. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, but still providing the plant that's everything you guys said you guys do. I think it's very part of craft. The touching of the plants, the one-on-one, the hand watering, the music, the smudging. No, that's next level shit. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That's
Keep
craft
saying it go as far as the production door. And I'm just like, get to the plants. And then I'll run back through all the 5 layers of doors and then see, like, can I smell it? And you can, they're getting it.
I dig it. I really dig it. So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome that you're being able to, push it, because that is crap, 100%. And I think that's is, I see people all the time go to the dispensaries and the shops, and they come out and they're like, man, it looks good, it smelled good, but it didn't get me high. And I think that's the prior working environments that you're talking about. Them are the people that, man, it's a job for them and they don't like it, and you know what I mean.
You can taste it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I've seen lately is like, um, kind of the hardness of buds being, a quality factor. There's nothing wrong with a naturally grown bud or naturally dense bud. I think people are, you know, people being fooled what a good campus actually is these days.
Yeah. And it's like a younger generation of new smokers that are probably just started, I would say, in the last few years, along with like some legalization or whatever. And so there's gonna be, I think, like new quality needs, I guess, based on these newer, and not that there's no negativity or anything, just like different, right? Like, but like older school growers like us are gonna, like, I prefer a nug that looks a little scruffy, like has a little character, it looks like a blockhead or something, but that's not what this new generation of consumers wants to smoke. They want this like perfectly GMO looking, bud. And I like mine to have 3 heads or like, little character.
Yeah, me too. So, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Obviously, you said you're not a business owner. Well, no, you said not a farm. You said farm.
Yeah, no business owning for me though. That was more more the point. I work on a farm for sure. I think like, I don't know, I'll stay here for a bit, and then I don't know that I'd want to jump from where I am to any other facility in Canada, to be honest, because I have it the best where I am right now. Like, genuinely, I feel that way. I have been approached by other companies in the last 2 years, and thought about, what that would look like or whatever. And just, I know, like, I just wouldn't have the same type of like, Tanner, the boss or the owner, thinks of me as like a partner, right? He trusts me completely. I make my own decisions a lot of the time. I am the weed, the gateway to the weed coming in and where it goes, right? Like, I would never have this kind of appreciation or being valued like this anywhere else. So I definitely can't see myself in another facility in Canada. Where I could see myself going just for more challenges once, I feel complete here, is like the States or Europe, right? Australia now. Like I'm like, when they, start changing their laws, maybe I'll go grow weed out there, So in the next 10 years, I feel like the world is my oyster. And I'd love to travel and do contract work even, just like wherever the challenges are. Right now, it's never really been about wage for me. So as long as I'm making money and I can have some money in savings, I'm good to go. It's more about the experience and like not just the job, but like the location and the people around me. And so I take all that into consideration, and like I'm always looking for a new exciting thing. I love being challenged.
Would you change the locations? Would you ever think about coming to the States?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd travel anywhere in the world probably, except for
California.
locations. But yeah.
You have an idea of cannabis. Where if you could, cannabis would take you somewhere in the States, where would you go?
I have friends in Michigan, I have friends in Florida, and friends in California that have all said, they would take me in a second.
Oh,
I'm
shit. It's a, I mean,
super poachable. I'm super poachable for America. So the only thing I need America to get on board with is become federally legal so that I could legally go over there, not say I'm working for like another company, but secretly working for, a cannabis company or whatever. Because of that, I think like to work in a different country, they need to know why and where, and like, so that just, you can't do that yet.
take that worldwide. Where would you go? Would you go to fucking Thailand? Would you go to Australia? They said,
Yeah,
fucking come on.
I'd go to Australia. I'd go several places in Europe. I'd go to Spain. I'd go, I don't know that I'd go to Colombia. That sounds scary. Jamaica. I don't know. Maybe the next place I head to would be like, it could be anywhere, honestly.
So what would sweeten the deal? Would it be money? Would it be knowledge and
It would,
new insight? What would be the incentive to go to the next place?
the next place would be, the incentive would be the adventure. So probably the location, the money, obviously, to relocate, and yeah, the experience. It would have to align with how this place aligns with me right now, so whatever that looks like, whenever that looks like, whatever I'm doing at that time. Organics, I don't know, you know what I mean? Or maybe maybe I'd be bored of organics in a couple of years and want to go like dip my toes back in hydro. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it feels weird to hear you on there. No more hydro hustlers?
I know. Aw. I still talk to Casey all the time. He's out in Florida working. Yeah, that's so crazy. I haven't thought about that in a while. I know I'm still a hydro hustler. Like in my tent right now, my girls are in 1 gallons and they were running out of food, and I've top dressed them a million times, and I don't want to up pot them because I have no space and they're going outside, right? So what are you gonna do? Do salts. So I have Remo. I got my backup, skills or whatever. So he was able to bring them back to life with a little salt, a little hydro hustler system in my organic soil.
Even to hear you say it's kind of funny to hear you come so far to now hand watering. That's a hand watering's a far cry from hydro
I
hustle.
know. And I was in irrigation, so I was the one running the machines. And I used to say, like, at the last place I was at was like, the one guy was always wanting to hand water the one room, and I was like, no, they need to be on an automated system. All of them need to get on the same system, like very factory minded, like the soldiers that don't make it. This is a factory. There's 1,000 plants in there, like, but now I would never let one soldier die ever. Plants don't die. I kill them. Like, they don't die on us. We have to inventory reduce. Like we have to kill healthy plants, which is terribly sad. But it's part of the process. We have to replace older moms with healthier moms. I keep the bone structures on the really cool ones that I'm attached to. I have a 7 of 9 actually in my office. So, like I've always kept them. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have skulls of plants that I really love to train or whatever. I train at work too. And so some of those bases are like the decorations or the art in the office. Our photographer has birds, like fun tropical birds or whatever. And so when he comes down too, I give him some of the wooden skulls of the plants for his birds.
The wooden skulls. I like the way you refer to them as the skulls.
You get attached to a plant, you want a little memory, right? So
The plant's good for a lot of things, that's for sure.
Yeah, and maybe don't tell Health Canada that I give.
Are you supposed to be claiming all that too, as far as I mean,
Where it gets destroyed and then I go sift it out of the destruction.
yeah, keep how stringent is keeping track of everything.
Absolutely stringent. From like one missing plant could ruin your life, basically. You got to keep track of everything. Including the end of destruction, every piece, like, every single gram. Leaf, nothing gets thrown in the garbage. Like there's times where I accidentally will throw like a leaf in the garbage, just out of habit of throwing something in the garbage, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to go dig it out.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, so to be clear, the skulls get destroyed, weighed and destroyed, and then I go fish them out of the compost.
There you go. Would you ever consider working the breeding side of cannabis?
Yeah, I would love to be mentored by someone. Like I would love to, that would be a challenge. Like that would be like what you said, what would be an incentive? Like one of the incentives to come to Stewart Farms was the fact that I'd be working with Kevin Jodrey, right? So that kind of thing where if someone came along and was like, oh, you could work under this person and learn breeding, right? Like, yeah, that would be a pretty big incentive. It would obviously depend who it is because everyone's a fucking breeder these days. But yeah, you know what I mean.
What
But
would
yeah, cool.
what would be a flavor that you'd start out with? Sounds like you're already kind of
Breeding, oh yeah, like I do breeding at home, right? Like I'm a basement breeder myself. I've kept a couple males and collected their pollen and dusted it on everything and kept seeds, but like just for my own hunting later, you know what I mean? So I guess I've already started, would want something like really, really fruity. And one of my favorite fruity weed smells is strawberry. Again, that's an ester, which I found out. I've only ever smelled one strain that was strawberry, and it was strawberries and cream. And yeah, I would do something with strawberry and then like, I don't know if it's cheesy or like skunky, I guess would be the better. So it'd be a skunk, so a white widow. It would be something with a beautiful white widow and strawberry. If I could get the best white widow I've ever grown, which was from Amsterdam Marijuana Seeds, their white widow extreme. It's like behind a lot of their breeds. And that cut of strawberries and cream and had like the perfect combination, that would be my unicorn strain.
Do you think flower will still continue to have a place in the market? It seems like people like that want to lean towards the extract market so much anymore. It seems like.
I know.
Yeah.
I think there will always be a place for flower because there are people like me. I don't use extracts really unless like I'll use a vape like a cart or whatever, like a 510. But that's literally it. And it's only if I'm stuck in a hotel or something where I can't smoke inside. So there's always going to be people like me that want the flower, I think. I hope.
I think I'm hoping as well. I'm just hoping that necessarily, man, the prices that you're kind of quoting on the large scale there, super scary. I can see why a bunch of farmers would, pack up the dream.
Yeah, throw in the towel.
And that's the other reason why I asked the question about the harvest thing. It seems like on a larger scale, more greed, greed, greed. And by that I'm saying, so many of these larger scales are trying to cut so many different steps to make maximum dollar. So if they're growing cannabis instead of for flower for extracts, I see a quicker harvest in time. You know what I mean? More to the
Yeah,
clear cloud side of things
it's more
because they're worried
monetary.
about harvesting. They're fucking straight to extract. So you know what I mean? There's no drying time. There's no people trimming it. It's
That's going to
awesome.
be the difference between brands. So, like what I said, the definition for me for craft cannabis is quality over profit. So those companies that are choosing profit to like do extracts because it's quick flowering, or unless there's some like good passion behind your extract, then you're still just farming out factory commercial stuff. It's not craft. You just want to fuck, like it's the industry. It's gross.
So what has been out of everything you've seen, what's been the best so far?
Like for flower?
Yeah. Hell yeah, we're flower smokers. That was what we smoke, right?
Yeah, I need to smoke some flower. The best thing I've seen. Probably. Oh, man. There's been so many interesting phenos, trying to think of like the weirdest mutant or something. I guess it wasn't at this place, but at the last place I was at, there was a lot of polyploidy plants. So I've gotten a couple in my own grow where it's like I don't know the science part of it, but it's like chromosomes. There's 4 instead of 2 or something. I don't know. And they grow these like wide, thin stems, and then the flowers grow like long and they almost look like caterpillars from above. But it's like a weird environmental mutation. And it's really, really cool, but it's usually a sign of, I've learned, I used to think it was really cool in the tent and like no big deal, whatever. But now I've learned that it's a big sign ahead of that genetics having either a disease or being like having a stress reaction, basically an environmental stress reaction. Because you can clone off of those polyploidy plants and not get a polyploidy plant. So it's like completely environmental, right? I don't know. It's like the same genetic. It's just, there's some pretty cool, interesting things, I guess. The fish also have been really cool.
The fish.
Yeah, learning about aquaponics and the fish has been
Right.
also pretty cool.
So it's funny that you kind of bring that up because I got the funniest look from the gentleman that I was working from today. And maybe I'm curious to see your thoughts on this, if it's feasible or not. Because ended up having to run 100 feet of fucking drip line out to these plants out on this guy's dock because they're just cooking in the sun, floating above the fucking water. Literally, these pots are floating above the water on the dock, right? Big old fucking pots of these nice plants they put out there. Actually, had me run drip line all the way out to these plants. I'm like, dude, you have the perfect source of food for these plants.
Fish.
Why don't you fucking drill a hole in the bottom of these plants next year and wick it down into the fucking water and then bury it up through the plant? And then you won't need the fucking drip lines and they'll have, you know, just exactly what they need. The best, it's better than this fucking well water you're fucking feeding them in the middle as they sit above this beautiful water they'd rather fucking drink. You're fucking feeding them well water and shit.
I mean,
But
he
would
should
it
test
work? You think it'd suck it up and keep that pot wet? You think it'd wick that pot?
The only problem with that would be he'd need to get that water tested just to see what's in it first. Maybe he's done that with his well water, and so that's why it's safer. But our fish, like, basically are not the nutrition part, they're the microbes part. So it's like a microbe farm. So all the aquaponics is basically all about microbial activity and the breakdown of what's in the soil so that the plants can access the nutrients. So he could do that, but you'd still have to feed them. Unless he's got this wildly nutritious lake. I don't know. That's why I'd have to get it tested to see what's in there. I've gotten different waters tested at different places and like seen some crazy things. And the thing you don't want in your water is salt, obviously. So you want to see what the ppm of the kind of the sodium intake would be, I guess, of that water. The pH. Does the pH change with the temperature that day? You know, like stuff like that. All the crazy things that I would think about now. I have all these like right away. So, you know, critically, I go through everything just to see would this work? You know, I've had to do so much critical thinking in this job with like when things happen and you're like, fuck, can I do this? Would I do this? Can I do this? Yeah. So I just apply that to everything now.
You gotta try, right?
Yeah, it's a great idea though. Love it. Fish poop is microbe city. But I mean, speaking of that, we do have a biofilter that filters all that poop. So it's like you can't maybe just add straight up shit to your. That's why companies like Fish Shit make money, because they have it all processed. Because otherwise, you could really burn your plants with nitrogen, like ammonia. So like our filter filters out the ammonia and like activate it so it's like the right type of nitrogen, right? Versus if you're just throwing it on there and then willy-nilly, your plants could get burnt, I guess, nitrogen burnt.
Can't be any worse than the way they look right now, I can tell you that.
What do you got going on over there?
Not much of shit right now. Need to get my garden going. It's been a crazy few years since the last we talked.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Process, man. I'm just back into the process now, getting my plants outside. I've dug a whole new hugelkultur garden in the last week. My roommate, my farm lady that lives, so I live on a property that's 55 acres. Katrina, who is also my partner in crime at work, she's a COO and the product developer there. She has me on her land in a guest house. So I'm living in a tiny little house and she lives in the main house. So anyways, we have a big garden here already, which we, you know, if you've been following, you've seen that I built Hugo boxes last year. But I love being right in the ground, of course. So this year, although I'm late, I tilled up like a 20 by 30 space behind our current garden just for weed and flowers and herbs. So I have like a regenerative, I can't speak right now. It's like 3 a.m. almost. Gardening approach, I guess, going on. So I have these like trenches, 2 big trenches across like 20 feet long that I've dug. Like I'm sore. I just got out of the bath because I was so sore. I was digging trenches before I got out here. That now I just have to fill my trenches with rotten wood and get the hugel bed process going, and then I can plant my plants. Although again, I know I'm late. This is more for next year. So most of my weed plants are going into big pots, and I have still those hugel beds from last year. I just planted those today. There's going to be some crazy wild weed going on. All those phenos that I have in my tent are all coming to the outdoors. And you know what else I might do this summer? I have some Royal Kush pollen that I saved from one of the best males from a hunt a couple years ago or a year ago. And I might pollinate a couple of branches and just get some seeds. Like do some outdoor breeding. I've never done that.
I think that's where it's at, the outdoor breeding.
Yeah, I agree. Like I see like that to me is like legacy or like OG. Like when I'm outdoors breeding on a branch, like these seeds gonna be legit.
I'm actually very worried about cannabis and like breeding like that. I'm afraid that well, it's when things are bred outdoors, I think that the diversity of the outdoors is being preserved in the seed.
Mhm.
Dry year, whatever, next year's genetics, are more suited for last year's environment, I think. Epigenetics, if you will, it's ever changing. But it's always adding to the genetic toolbox to where when we're breeding indoors, there's way less pressures. So what's actually being passed on? Is it the weakest of the weak? Are we breeding out the weakness of the plants where the outdoors more hardier, more diverse, genetics? I think that's key. I think that's a lot of times why we can't find that skunk. The natural pressures of nature aren't there's not deer running through your fucking indoor breeding room.
No, just me shaking the plants all over. Here.
Nothing. That's the plant producing different terp profiles to survive in that area. I don't know.
Some of the a lot of the genetics I work with, because they are from Humboldt County in California, like a lot of them are bred outdoors. Like they are, and that's kind of that's where I see that's where the legacy strains lie, right? Is outdoor OGs, back in the day, wherever, all over the States or Canada, not just, the West Side or whatever. But most people, that's how breeding was done. And you're right, the seeds are hardier, more resilient. But also I've learned that if you breed outdoors, your plant's best genetic expression is going to be when you grow it outdoors in that same kind of condition. Same thing with indoor breeding. If you bred it indoors, it's probably going to express its best genetic expression indoors under a similar, environment.
So how did you guys get your cannabis in on Australian market? Where do you guys, are you guys got your eyes set on like say Thailand or anything?
one country at a time. Basically you have to find a client that wants to buy your ganja. So we're branded over there under a really high standard quality brand called Chemovar. And the guy that owns it is Australia's first ganjier and has a connection with Kevin. And so that's how we connected to Australia. And then we sent our first shipment over and everyone loved it. It sold out. And so it just connected that relationship. And as long as we keep sending them good quality cannabis, that's going to probably be our most fruitful avenue of like profit, I guess. So I would love to just exclusively grow for Australia. Like, sorry, Canada, like you're not appreciating us enough. And so I would give all of our weed to Australia, honestly, just by how awesome it's been. It's been hard. Like, it's been really hard to get through the process of audit and GMP and, you know, meeting their quality standards, like unreal compared to what we're used to, you know, but we did it and we're doing it. And so it's pretty, like, it's a good feeling for sure. I just hope that part keeps going up. So like, yeah, if we want to get in Thailand, I need a Thailand client to be like, hey, you're growing dank weed over in Canada. Maybe we want to buy that, you know? Or genetics too. Like, I know my boss talks to different people in Israel, I think, where they're, you know, looking at more medical stuff and talking about, you know, buying genetics, like tissue culture, that kind of thing.
It's awesome that, you know, the world market is open to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not locked in just the Canadian market. You wouldn't. At that point, would you be able to survive? Not you in particular, but you know.
Yeah, the company, I don't know. It depends, I guess, because Tanner had, you know, and Katrina really had the idea and the plan to put the, you know, cannabis 2.0 products first. So topicals, bath salts, like to make that revenue in order for us to be able to grow weed. You know, that's a huge reason to the success, I would say too. But like, yeah, the weed would fail without Australia, I think. Like, not fail, but like we wouldn't be able to keep our heads above water much longer because it's just so competitive. So price wise, the amount that we can offer, you know, I don't know. International sales.
Thank goodness, right? So
Yeah, I
you
think.
be like
Grateful.
been kind of like hoping for like an Appalachia type market where you can a Canadian market, Canadian cannabis will be, you know, every and they'll have their own strains native and every, you know, region will have its own
Yeah, we'll have terroir of cannabis or whatever. You know, Michigan will have their own terroir, like regional. California will have theirs, different, you know, different locations. Same as Canada. I think it'll be like Eastern and like Western versus not much is going on in the middle, I would say.
Mhm.
Production wise.
Hard growing environment in the central Canadian.
Yeah, less populated for sure. And I'm talking really Saskatchewan, which is where I was born and grew up, and Manitoba. Manitoba has some weird rules around cannabis still. Their home growers are still not allowed to home grow their 4 plants. Like, they've been going to court, like different people are leading like a revolution out there to hopefully get people able to grow their 4 legal plants that every other Canadian can grow since 2018. So yeah, there's not a big cannabis culture, I guess, in either of those provinces that I've noticed. You can see it in Alberta, you see it in BC, you see it in Ontario, even Quebec has their own French cannabis culture. And then the East Coast Atlantic provinces sort of all blend together, I guess, but it's got its own culture for sure.
Well, I hate to do this, but I think I am gonna call this one.
I was gonna call it just now, but I was just, okay, I think we've talked about everything. And I just see the time is like 2:38 and I'm like on 10% battery.
Oh, I'm kind of whooped. It's been a long day for me, and I got to get up early in the morning. I was
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
thankful to get my run in before the show, and it kicked my ass. It really kicked my ass.
I hear you. It's been a long week. The only reason I'm still like standing is because I know that I can just do whatever I want tomorrow and Sunday. I actually have both days off. So I'll probably stay up for a couple more hours through the witching hours. I like being up during the middle of the night and then maybe have like a nice long morning nap.
The witching hours, huh? I am a nice person myself, but not tonight. I'm whooped.
I know you're usually the night owl and I'm the one that's sleeping.
But it's been awesome to catch up with you, and it's nice to hear that you're still kicking ass.
Yeah, I'm still kicking ass and my own ass mostly, but ass all the same. I'm feeling blessed lately, tired, but completely grateful about it.
Well, the same old, basically. The link that I sent you tonight is a new link because Zoom made me fucking update that shit. But
Dang.
for now, it's the link still. You're always welcome anytime you want to come hang out in the Weed Nerd Worlds. Nowadays, they are Monday nights at 9 Eastern Standard Time.
Earlier, yeah.
Eastern 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the rest of the week, I'm trying to get back to fucking talking shit with me episode. And but you're always welcome. You know, I'd like to for you to pop in whenever you feel you want to.
And I genuinely feel that way from you 100% since the day we met. And I want you to know that I'm grateful for that. So I feel like I always have a seat at the table and I appreciate that.
I got a lot of respect for you, girl. One
Thank you.
thing before you go, and it's the same old thing. I need that soundbite. You remember how it goes?
Hey, remind me.
Well, basically, my words. This is what I'm looking for. It'd be, hey, this is Eagle, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 813.
Okay.
Whatever you want before, after. Totally grateful. I'm ready.
Oh, got it. I am Miss Nudie Grows or Genevieve Newton, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle for the third time, episode 813.
Fucking perfect. Hell yeah.
I did it.
Thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking with you again. Hopefully, not in 3 fucking years. Huh? Sooner than that?
For sure. All right. Get a good sleep. Take care. Bye, live chat.
Thank you guys for tuning in. No Weed Nerd World tonight. I am sorry, but I will be here tomorrow night. You guys hopefully remember the deal. Don't forget to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. And with that being